Have you ever stopped to think that maybe everything we call truth today could just be what shouts the loudest? What if I told you that the greatest enemy of knowledge is not ignorance, but certainty? We live in a time where those who doubt the most are silenced, and those who speak the most are celebrated. But has knowing less and appearing confident become more important than thinking deeply? Socrates, back in ancient Greece, already warned about the danger of a society that exchanges wisdom for spectacle. But what if that's exactly what we're living through right now, and no one noticed? You might think you're in control of your ideas, but what if it were the other way around? In this video, you will discover why we are unlearning how to think and thinking it's normal. And in the end, you may never view a simple conversation the same way again. The age of noisy certainty. Have you ever noticed how the loudest speaker always seems to be right? In ancient times, shouting was a sign of loss of control. Today, it's almost synonymous with authority. Social media has transformed tone of voice, real or digital, into a barometer of credibility. And this wasn't a programming error. It was a cultural choice, silent, dangerous, trading arguments for volume. Wisdom for noise. Socrates saw debate as an art, listening, reflecting, and responding with humility. But in today's world, this method has become synonymous with weakness. Those who pause to think are swallowed up by those who arrive with ready-made phrases. It's as if the silence of reflection has lost its value in the face of the noise of instant opinion. Certainty has become more important than truth. The result is an environment where depth has become a luxury. Only those who can afford not to go viral have time to think. Algorithms don't reward reasoning, they reward provocation. And so those who should speak most remain silent, and those who should listen position themselves as the ones who are right. Public space has become a stage, not a marketplace of ideas. Socrates would be called boring today. Someone who delays debate with uncomfortable questions. But perhaps he was exactly what we lack, a living reminder that knowing how to think is nobler than knowing how to respond, and that noisy certainty can be just the echo of insecurity disguised as opinion. 2. Trust without content. There's a skill that's become gold on social media, appearing confident even when you know nothing. That firm posture, direct gaze, rapid speech, all of this sells an image of authority, and outsiders believe it. But performative confidence has nothing to do with wisdom. It's more about theater than substance. It's pose replacing thought. Socrates believed that the truly wise person was one who recognized their limits. But in today's culture, admitting oneself to ignorance has become synonymous with weakness. And therein lies the danger. Because, little by little, arrogance disguised as confidence begins to seem trustworthy. And true knowledge with its doubts and nuances begins to be seen as indecision. This baseless confidence is constantly rewarded. Those who assert themselves with conviction, even without proof, gain likes, followers, and space. Meanwhile, those who try to explain carefully, presenting both sides of an issue, are labeled as sitting on the fence. Reflection has become suspect, caution has become a flaw, doubt, a burden no one wants to carry anymore. But Socrates would teach us that thinking is truly uncomfortable. It's slow and it requires courage to not appear perfect all the time. True wisdom doesn't shine like a show. It grows in the dark, in moments when no one is watching, when we have the humility to recognize that we still have much to learn. 3. The I know virus. There's a silent and extremely dangerous phenomenon spreading, the I know virus. It's when someone learns superficially about a topic and suddenly feels like an expert. They've seen a documentary, read 2 articles, watched a video, and now they feel ready to teach doctors, economists, or historians. This sense of mastery without depth deceives not only others, but especially those who experience it. This is the so-called Dunning-Kruger effect, a psychological distortion in which people with little knowledge believe they know a lot, and the less they know, the more confident they become. Socrates already fought this centuries ago. He knew that the beginning of wisdom was admitting one's own ignorance. But today, "I don't know" has disappeared from popular vocabulary, as if it were shameful to admit one is learning. The problem is that those who know the most tend to have the most doubts. The more you understand about a subject, the more you perceive its layers, its exceptions, its complexities. But the environment we live in doesn't value this. It rewards those who speak directly, simply, and inflexibly. As if the world were black and white and that's it. Socrates, if he were alive, might not have gone viral. But he would have understood the danger of a society that has traded intellectual humility for presumption disguised as courage. Because when everyone believes they know everything, no one is willing to learn anything. 4. When thinking becomes dangerous today, reflection has become a risky act. Asking too many questions can be interpreted as provocation. Saying "I'm not sure" is accused of weakness, and trying to understand both sides of a conflict can put you in the crossfire of an ideological war. We live in a time when complexity is uncomfortable, and those who dare to embrace it become targets. Socrates knew this. He was condemned for teaching young people to think, to doubt, to question the dogmas of the time. And even today, those who question too much risk being labeled subversive, unnecessarily controversial, or even dangerous. Thought becomes a threat when it challenges the certainties that sustain collective comfort. This fear of thinking out loud has devastating consequences. It causes teachers to remain silent, professionals to hide their opinions, and thinkers to be forced into anonymity. Self-censorship becomes the norm. And public debate, instead of being a space for construction, becomes an arena for combat. Real thinking requires courage, the courage to not align with the popular trend, the courage to not just say what pleases, and above all, the courage to pay the price of being honest. Socrates paid with his own life, and perhaps that's why his message still resonates today. A society that punishes those who think is leading its own demise. The price of telling the truth. In times of spectacle, truth has become a luxury item, not because it's rare, but because it's so expensive. Speaking one's mind honestly requires facing crowds who prefer the comfort of illusion. Socrates knew that truth isn't always pleasing, but he also knew that a society that shuns the truth creates its own blindness and becomes complacent in it. Today we see this in the silence of those who know. Teachers, scholars, experienced professionals who choose silence to avoid being overwhelmed by the fury of the collective. It's not cowardice, it's survival. Speaking the truth has become almost a political act, a bold act. Because the cost is social, being misunderstood, canceled, labeled. Socrates was condemned not for lying but for causing discomfort. And the truth, when it's not convenient, truly bothers. It forces us to rethink beliefs, question idols, and distrust certainties. In times like ours, this can cost friendships, jobs, and reputations. Therefore, many prefer to remain silent, and the lie, disguised as acceptance, continues to spread. But if all who think are silent, who is left to speak? Socrates would remind us that to remain silent in the face of ignorance is to allow it to become the norm, and that the silence of the wise is what truly strengthens the foolish. 6. Algorithm. Wisdom. Our time has a new oracle, the algorithm. It's the one that decides what we see, who we talk to, what we think. Socrates believed in the personal search for truth. Today we've outsourced this to a system that doesn't think, it just calculates. And what it calculates is simple. What generates the most reaction, the most clicks, the most emotion. Wisdom, once built with time and effort, has become a commodity for instant consumption. Short videos, punchy phrases, and quick tips make you appear intelligent in seconds. The appearance of knowledge trumps actual knowledge. Socrates spent hours debating a single question. Today, we barely have the patience to listen to an argument to its conclusion. The problem is that algorithms weren't designed to make us wiser. They were designed to keep us trapped. And the best way to do that is to feed us what irritates or comforts us, never what challenges us. Reflection has been replaced by stimulation, and in this environment, true wisdom doesn't survive. Socrates would say, "Know thyself." But how can we know ourselves if we're always distracted, reacting to what the system wants us to feel? Wisdom has become hostage to a game where thinking doesn't lead to engagement, and whoever feels the strongest wins. 7. The lie that rewards. We live in a strange time where a lie, when well packaged, is worth more than any truth. It's not just about fake news. It's about an entire system that rewards those who distort, exaggerate, and manipulate. Socrates believed that good was inseparable from knowledge, but today they've separated ethics from success and applauded those who profit from it. The truth takes time, it's complex, and requires context. Lies, however, don't. They're quick, simple, and emotional. That's why they go viral. That's why they engage. Those who simplify the world, even incorrectly, are treated as visionaries, and those who try to explain its complexity are treated as boring. The world has become a stage for those who lie with confidence. Worse, we create justifications for it. We say that everyone would do the same, that it's part of the game. And so the unethical becomes a model. The lie becomes content, and dishonesty becomes strategy. Socrates said that to live without examining one's life is to waste it. But how can one examine a life built on distortions? A lie that rewards is a sweet poison. In the short term, it pays off. In the long term, it destroys everything that sustains social trust. And when this happens, even the purest truth begins to be doubted. Socrates would warn us, a people who become accustomed to being deceived begin to prefer illusion. 8. Socrates and the last breath of reflection. Imagine Socrates walking the streets today. He'd see cell phones in everyone's hands, loud voices everywhere, millions of ideas vying for attention. And perhaps he'd stop it all with a single question. Have you ever thought about this, really? Because that's what's dying. Not information, but the ability to reflect. Reflection requires time, and time has become a luxury. The logic of haste has taken over. Thinking has become a waste of time. Stopping to understand has become synonymous with delay. Socrates would say that life without reflection is not worth it. But what if we are living just such a life, full of movement yet empty of meaning? Today, anyone who raises doubts is seen as a nuisance. Those who don't choose a side are attacked by both. Society has lost its taste for "it depends," for nuance, for complexity. And in doing so, it has also lost the opportunity to grow, because only those who question what they already know evolve. Socrates would be ignored today, perhaps even blocked. But he would leave us with one final request. Think. Even when everyone just wants to feel, even when they tell you to be quiet, even when it seems useless, think, because that's what keeps the flame of humanity burning. Ultimately, Socrates didn't leave us with ready-made answers. He left us with questions. And perhaps in this world that runs, shouts, simplifies, and judges, this is the greatest legacy we can rescue. Ask sincerely. Reflect without fear of changing your mind. Distrust noisy certainties and value the silence that thinks. If you've come this far, it's because something inside you also feels that there's something wrong with this excess noise. And maybe, as Socrates wanted, this video doesn't give you all the answers, but help you do it the right questions.